Okay, students, this is the last or second to last step on this button bag. We are going to figure out where we want to put this buttonhole on this little flap. So we've got to look at it and say, if you put the buttonhole way down here, you got to be careful because then the button hangs off the edge of the flap and that looks like you made that. Okay, so we want it to look like, where'd you get that? I'll buy one from you. So we're going to put it up the button up so that it looks really good and centered even on either side. Now notice this button has two holes in it. So usually when you put a button on, the holes go vertically. So if you do horizontally, it splits open the buttonhole and then it makes a mess. So we are going to put the buttonhole vertical. We usually put them vertical on these kind of things because they hold up better and they don't flap open. So we don't want the button going this way. We want it going this way with the holes vertical. So then we are going to measure the center of this little flap to see how big it is. And mine is 3 1/4, 3 3/8. It's right in between 3 3/4 and 3 3/8. So we're going to go half of that, which half of 3 is 1.5 inches, and then half of 3/8 is right here. It's 1/8 plus another 1/16. So we're going to go right there. We're going to make a mark in the center where the button is approximately going to go. Now, we've got another thing we've got to do. We've got to measure the length of the buttonhole. You should have already done your buttonhole calculation. So a buttonhole calculation to get the right size of the buttonhole is the diameter of the button. So this one's 1 1/4 inches plus the height of the button. This one is 1/4 inch, so that would make the buttonhole for this 1 1/4 inches plus another 1/4 inch, which is 1.5 inches. Now you have to have the buttonhole at least that big, or this button will not be able to go through it. If it's just the diameter and doesn't figure the height of this button, you can't get the button through the buttonhole, and then you've got a problem. So we're going to measure this one. That's going to go on my button bag. And it is 3/4 inch. And then we're going to measure it this way. And it's 1/8 inch. So 3/4 inch plus 1/8 inch is 7/8 inch. So my buttonhole opening has to be at least 7/8 inch. And then I want to make sure that my buttonhole ends with about 1/4, 3/8 inch. Yeah, about 3/8 inch off the bottom of the button, which means we need to measure up to where the button hole ends because that's where it's going to catch on the buttonhole. So that would be 5/8 inch up. So I'm going to go 5/8 inch up right there, and this is the bottom of my buttonhole right here. And you're going to make an I, like a capital I, like you saw on the calculation worksheet. Then you're going to measure straight up like this, and you're going to go 7/8 inch, and that's where your buttonhole is going to go. So it looks like a capital I, and then we're going to sew it on the machine. So